Now let us see how do we validate the RAG results that we have got. There are multiple ways of validating the LLM results, but none of them are very convincing. Most of them try to give you how good the output is, but really in the context when we are doing a RAG Q&A, is it really giving us the answer that we are looking for? None of those existing statistical quantifying scores like BLEU score, they're not really that convincing. But one method that I found may be somewhat much better than the other ways of validating the output in large language models. In this method, we will have our own factual data set where we have our own questions and the answers. Maybe it's good to prepare our own questions and the answers based on the data that we have given, whatever is the data repository that we have given. We will have some set of questions and answers, maybe manually prepared or maybe pre-existing. We will use those to validate the results given by the large language model or the RAG output. So we have our own answers, we will take RAG answers, and then we will try to compare them by using an LLM itself. So let me give you an example. We will take Constitution of India. So this particular file is available publicly. We can download the Constitution of India. So this is the file. We will try to have a look at it. This is a PDF file. You can also download it, Constitution of India. And then what we will do is we will try to ask some questions based on the Constitution of India. And then we have already some questions and answers already prepared with us. May not be matching with RAG output or the LLM output, but we'll try to compare and see. We will try to use a metric or a method to find out whether the results that we got are same as the results that are factually correct. So this is one file. This is the actual file which we will use for question and answering in RAG. Then we will download another file for validation. We will have some 10 random questions and their answers with us. Now that file you have to prepare. So first, let us try to follow the usual RAG steps. So we'll first start with document loading. We already have discussed all these steps. Document loading followed by splitting the data into chunks. The third step, embedding, vector embeddings, and storing them in the vector database. So let us do these steps one by one. First, I got the file. The file name is COI. So for document loading, from LangChain document loaders, import by PDF loader, which we already have imported. So these are all the pages. If I want to know the full text, this is the full text. If you want to quickly check what are the pages, how many pages are there, how many lines are there, how many words are there, how many characters are there as of now in the Constitution of India, as of now, you will find that this is the actual original file that I have downloaded. So it is still loading, slightly a larger file. Give it a moment while it is loading. So it has 402 pages, 400 plus pages, nearly 869,000, 0.8 million characters are there, and 172,000 words are there. These many lines are there. So this is the data, quite good data. And then we can ask questions as well on this. Now it's time for us to split the data into chunks. What is the strategy for splitting the data into chunks? The strategy is you should split that much of the data into chunks so that later on, if we are asking a question, then we get the answer. Maybe if we are taking 4 pieces of the answer, in each piece, if a large text is containing, if we combine all those 4 pieces, again, we give it to a large language model so to synthesize the answer, then we may hit the maximum token limit. So that is why usually you can take that chunk size as 300 to 1000, or if you're very sure, maybe max to max 2000. Don't take more than that, because later on, when you ask a question, you will get the answer as the chunk, and then 4 chunks you will combine. Each chunk has to be slightly smaller in size. So from LangChain text splitters, use the recursive text splitter. Here I'm using chunk size as 2000. You can use anywhere between 300 to 1000 or 1500 like that. But here slightly larger data set. That is why I'm using chunk size as 2000. Chunk overlap usually 10% to 20% is preferred. So the number of chunks, if I want to see quickly the number of chunks, let me execute this in a separate cell so that we can avoid re-executing the same. So the number of chunks here are 687. Then we will go to our next step, which is creating the embeddings. So from LangChain, we can get OpenAI embeddings, or we can also get Cohere embeddings. Here I'm going for OpenAI embeddings. And then I would say Constitution of India database. This is the one, and locally we will create a database. So let us create a vector database. That step doesn't take a lot of time. Once you create the vector database, the last step would be the retrieval QA chain. Sometimes these kind of links that you get in Google Colab are quite useful, because whatever you're writing, there's a link that it has given. Sometimes you will kind of stumble upon some of the good, interesting projects. So whenever it suggests that the code has been taken from here, generally try to click on it and see where is it coming from. And then finally, the retrieval part. So from LangChain chains, retrieval Q&A chain, I would like to use temperature 0 to get factual information, Q&A chain, retrieval Q&A from chain type LangChain. And chain type is stuff. I want to give all the documents that we are getting for a question as together, stuff together as the final output. And then this is the retriever. So this is a retrieval. So we are done with the RAG part of it. We will quickly check with a query, one sample question that I'm writing. So my query is, according to the Constitution of India, what are the fundamental rights of citizens of India? So here we don't really get the output. Usually we get the documents retrieved, and then when you say retrieval Q&A chain, then all of that will be compressed into the output, or the output will be synthesized based on the retrieved outputs. So there will be four pieces of information, or four chunks of the data will be retrieved, and all of that will be given in the form of one synthesized output. The fundamental rights of citizens as part 3 of Constitution include, these are the rights: right to birth, sex or place or race, caste. So these are all the right to expression, freedom of speech, freedom of expression. These are all the rights according to the Constitution of India. Now, this is the usual method. Now, I'm doubting whether this is the actual answer or not. Right now, the main point of this particular discussion is I want to validate the answer. I don't know whether to trust this output or not. Is this the actual output? Is this output really coming from the document that I have given? Is this output really coming from this Constitution of India? If I try to download this Constitution of India, and if I try to check, is it really based on the output or based on the text that I have given? Is it really the fundamental right that has been mentioned inside that document? I'm doubting it. So how do you validate the answer? Not only this answer, in general, all the answers. What is the validation criteria? How do you do that? So the validation has a certain steps. So here is the first step. When you are creating the Q&A chain, try to give additional input key that will be useful. You give the input key as question. So here is a validation. You say my large language model. We will use a large language model for the validation. We will take the result from the RAG. We will have our own Q&A file. I will show you that file. But before that, make sure that if you want to validate a RAG model, you try to again create a Q&A chain. But this time, when you are creating, make sure that you are giving an additional input key. Usually we don't do that, but here we have to give additional input key, add this extra parameter so that you can access it later on. What is the question? For that question, what is the answer? So add this extra key so that later on we can compare. For this question, the answer generated by RAG is this one. The original answer that is there in the document is this one. Now, once you declare like this, once your RAG is ready, now here is the important point. Please pay close attention to this. When you want to validate, you got to have factual information with you. Let's say if you go back to machine learning, if you want to validate whether the predictions given by a logistic regression are accurate or not, you will compare y predicted with y actual. If you have y actual, then your life becomes easy. But in not all situations in large language model related applications, we may not have y actual values readily available with us. So in that case, what do we do? Maybe it's a good idea to prepare some of the y actual data, prepare some factual information. So what I have done is I have taken some of the 10 questions and answers from based on the Constitution of India. So those are the answers not generated by the large language model. These are factual answers. These are the answers according to me. These are the right answers. For example, if I know about Constitution of India, or somewhere in the Constitution of India, it has been mentioned these are the fundamental rights. So the factual answers, that file we need to have. So I have prepared a file that has around 10 questions and answers. So that is a actual test data. So if I want to get the test data. Now you have to prepare this test data. This is not available publicly. If you really want to test how effective your RAG is, this is the one of the best method which you can defend your RAG. Prepare the test data as lengthy as possible. Have 100 questions and 100 answers. At least for once, if you prepare it, then you can defend whether your RAG is doing correctly or not. So I have prepared this test data which has 10 questions and answers. So let me show you that data set. First, let me get that. Here is the data set. If I try to look at this, these are the questions and answers. Question: according to Constitution of India, what are the fundamental rights? The fundamental rights are these. Now, this is not exactly matching with whatever the answer RAG has given, but overall, is it giving the same type of answer? Maybe the wording is different. At least is it giving the same message? What is the significance of preamble in the Constitution of India? And then what are the directive principles in the state policy? How do they differ from fundamental rights, etc.? Like that, there are 10 questions and answers given in this document. First, let me get that document. It's a simple PDF, CSV file. Let me import it into pandas. Pandas. Import pandas as PD. And then this is the what's happening. Unnecessarily, it is suggesting pandas as PD. We're getting too many suggestions from Google Colab. You have the test data. If you want to have a look at the test data here, it will look slightly better. So according to Constitution of India, this is the question one, this is the answer one. Actually, we are looking at only a snippet. These questions are lengthy as well as answers are also lengthy. Now, directly as it is in the data frame format, we cannot validate. We have to convert it into a list of question and answer, question and answer. You have a list. In that list, you have a key, which is question. You have a value, which is the actual question. And then another key is answer, the answer to the second question. So we will try to prepare questions and answer pairs and we store them in a list. So we call that as test Q&A pairs. Test QA pairs. And then what we will do is we will get all the questions and put them in question place. We get all the answers. So this is the question and answer final list that will be created. So the list will appear like this: question, first question, and then its relevant answer. And then at any point of time, so you have the second question and its answer. You have question number 2 and its answer, question number 3 and its answer. So everywhere question and answer will be there in this. Now what I'll do is I'll intentionally add something that is not there in the Constitution of India. So this is the original RAG file. One of the main reason why we want to use RAG is RAG doesn't hallucinate. RAG doesn't create answers on its own. Even though large language model knows the answer, since RAG limits everything to this particular file, we use RAG because it avoids hallucination. It doesn't create anything on its own. Even though large language model knows the answer, if I ask the large language model who is Narendra Modi, he is the PM of India, it will give all the information related to Narendra Modi. He is a very famous personality in India. So but if we are using RAG, if there is no mention of Narendra Modi in the Constitution of India, definitely there will be no mention. The RAG has to say that I don't know the answer. So let me add this additional question. Right now, this has 10 questions and 10 answers. I will add the new question. Intentionally, I will try to add a question that is not part of the original input data. So I'm adding a new question so that I will check whether RAG is really giving the answer or it is hallucinating. So I would say add one more question and answer. Add one more question and answer. So who is Narendra Modi is the question and the answer goes like this. Narendra Modi is the current Prime Minister of India, serving since 2014. He is a member of Bharatiya Janata Party. It is known as BJP Party. And previously, he served as Chief Minister from 2001 to 2014. That is a small answer that you can get. Now, I'm appending this to the test Q&A page. Even though this is the answer, I expect my RAG not to give this answer because RAG is limited to Constitution of India. In the Constitution of India, you will not get this answer because Narendra Modi is not supposed to be inside the Constitution of India. Constitution is a bundle of rules. Now let us try to get all the predictions. So what I'll do is I will give all these test Q&A pairs. In this test Q&A pairs, input is question. If you remember earlier, we have given input key is question. So we have to save it with the same name. So input is a question. This is the existing answer. And in the output, we will get question, existing answer, and the result from the RAG. So let us get the predictions. So what are the predictions? The predictions are you take the Q&A chain and say apply test Q&A pairs. So all these 10 questions will be sent. So what will be the output like? I think it is expecting us to give the input key as a query. So we will try to give query specifically instead of question. We will say it should work with question as well, but let us try to make it quick. Query. And then even this one is query. So what I will do is I'll try to execute. Okay. This is the Q&A chain. Input key is query. And these are all the input questions with the name key name query. This is additional questions. So I have 11 questions. So I'm giving all those 11 questions now. All these 11 questions are given. Now for all these 11 questions, the answers are getting generated. This is the new question and answer. To be honest with you, for the Q&A chain, it will never get to know what is the answer to the question, who is Narendra Modi. Let me show you. If I ask this question, the Q&A chain, and say like the way we have executed earlier when we were testing this. Here, if I ask who is Narendra Modi, then this Q&A chain will say that I do not really know the answer. Let us try to quickly check that because that is not part of the input data. So let us try to check this Q&A chain. So here the question is, who is Narendra Modi? Now here it should not give us the result that Narendra Modi is so and so person. Let us try to get the output. I don't know is the answer. And that's what it should be because it is not part of that. Even here in the output, you will see that I don't know is the answer. So here in this output, in these predictions, you have the query, which is a question. You have the answer, that is your answer, original answer. And this is the result given by the large language model or your RAG. Question, answer, and RAG output. Question is what is the significance? And then the answer starts like this. Question is this one. So your this is your answer, however you have written. Obviously your answer definitely it will be right, and this is the answer generated by the output. Maybe sometimes the answer is larger than what you have written, sometimes the answer is actually lesser than whatever you have written in the answer, but is it really meaning the same? So what I'll do is right now I will use a large language model to compare your original answer with the final output. What large language model do is it will try to find out what is the meaning of this result. So this is the large language result, model result. This is the actual answer. Then it will try to tell us whether it is correct or incorrect. If the answers are matching, not exactly word to word, but the meaning of the answers, if they are same, then it will say it's correct. If the meaning is different, then it will say incorrect. For example, for the question that we have asked here, who is Narendra Modi? The answer is this. But when we ask a large language model, finally we got the answer, I don't know. Then at least for that one, at least for that question, the large language model, when we are comparing, when we are validating, it will say that this is the right answer, this is the answer it was given, so it's an incorrect answer. So finally, we will come to the actual crux of this whole discussion. How do you really evaluate your final output from the RAG? For that, you can use evaluation Q&A chain or Q&A evaluation chain. So how do you do that? From LangChain evaluation dot QA, get this Q&A evaluation chain. Use the large language model. Obviously, if you want to evaluate, you have to use a large language model that will compare actual versus predicted. So my final evaluation results or validation results, or I will use Q&A evaluation chain dot evaluate. I will give all the questions, answers, results. So I'll give the predictions. In the predictions, you have the large language model predictions, which are sitting under result. So the question key is query. Query is the question. The answer key is answer. So these are the keys. So these are the actual values, and predictions contains the predictions. So you will get question one correct or wrong, question two correct or wrong, results correct, correct, correct. Everything is correct except the last one incorrect. So sometimes in between, if there is any incorrect answer, you will get as incorrect. Now on top of it, we can write a simple code. We can write a small wrapper function, which will actually count how many are correct, how many are wrong. So we can simply calculate the accuracy. So this is a function which is not existing, but we can actually make it easy to read. Otherwise, going through each and every question, finding out how many are correct, how many are incorrect, that will not be that easy. So calculate the accuracy. So how do you do that? First, you initialize the counters. How many are correct, how many are incorrect? So I would say correct count, or how many correct count is 0 right now, and then the incorrect count is 0. So if the result is equal to correct, I think there is a space here, so let's give extra space. And then I think even in incorrect also there is a space. If it is incorrect, I think after stripping it can be done directly like this. If you're not stripping, then you have to keep a space there, and then calculate the percentages. So you get count how many are correct, how many are incorrect, calculate the percentages, print the final results. So if you look at the above example, we have given 11 questions. Out of the 11 questions that we have given, 10 questions are correct, and last question is given as wrong. So this is the correct number, this is the wrong number. I think we have to give into 100 here. So correct 92.3, wrong are basically out of 11, 10 questions are correctly answered. The last one, we intentionally included something else. So I would say our RAG on the Constitution of India worked perfectly. What you can do is you yourself can test this. You take one data set, as well as you have some factual information with you, the test data. So the data that I have shown you, the Q&A data, apart from the original data, this Q&A data, you prepare it. Spend some time in preparation, because then only you can confidently accept your RAG results. Prepare this Q&A data and then ask the large language model to compare. So use this Q&A evaluation chain. This is kind of hidden gem. People use multiple ways of evaluation. There is nothing like comparing with the actual results that we are confident of, and then the results given by the large language model. The old traditional method also, you have the y actual values, compare them with y predicted values. Your y actual values are the answers that you have. So spend some time in creating the Y actual values, create questions and answers, create such kind of dictionary, and then compare it with the results that are given by the large language model. This is how you can evaluate the RAG results. And in this particular case, our RAG on the Constitution of India working perfectly, but I encourage you to test it further.